Kateline, I got good news. Well, let's just call it news. I don't think it's good, because it's suspect. Let's call it suspect news.
Suspect news.
But we got the ticker tape coming in. News update on Murph Dog whereabouts. If we're to believe, on the December 5th episode of Talking Dateline, AC talked to him. And I listened to it, and it was his voice conversing with AC. Because it's like the 15th year anniversary of Amanda Knox, and he covered it from the start.
Okay.
Dennis Murphy covered the case from the very beginning and is here to tell us why this case got so much attention and what happened next. Hey, Dennis.
Hey, Andrea, how are you?
Good.
But usually when she posts stuff like that, she does a little video of the Zoom, right? We'll see AC talking to Blaine. We'll see her talking to J-Mank, talking about his glasses. Nothing with this.
No vid.
Not even a still. Not even a freeze frame. So I'm still suspicious. Do we call this, is this proof of life?
No.
Kateline.
No, we need the newspaper with today's date.
Yeah. Or him just hosting a new episode will be good enough for us. We'll trust that as long as it's a new episode. But anyways, I think mystery remains. No Murph Dog in sight. Especially if when they do a Murph Dog, if it's just an Amanda Knox update, like they could be using old footage.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, let's go talk about another AC ep.
Now I'm even more worried.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And it was the tail end of the ep, too. It was only for like 7 minutes. Anyway, Murph Dog, we're worried about you. Give us a holler.
I'm Lester Holt.
Howdy, Holtheads. Kurt Money here, alongside my co-host,
Kateline.
and we are here to discuss what is, I'm going to go ahead and say it, the absolute funniest episode of Dateline that's ever existed. What do you think?
It's certainly the cringiest.
Well, it is cringy, but it was all the cons were so terrible. I wasn't cringing. I was just belly laughing at all the attempts and everything in between. I don't know.
Do you wonder, why they even chose to cover this?
Well, no, not when you get your eyes on Nicholas Alahverdian.
But nobody died.
True. There's some connage going on.
There's connage.
He was conning the hell out of Nafsika's plant-based hit TV show now in its 4th season on A&E. We know that.
Wow, it's so
good. I'm with you, though. No deaths, which makes it easier to laugh at.
Yes.
And I will say there is some sexual assaults, but the ladies get some revenge in this ep. They get the upper hand in this. All right, so let me read the IMDb and then we'll hop in. Dateline reports on the dramatic updates in the case of international fugitive Nicholas Rossi, who faked his death as law enforcement closed in on him. After allegations of rape and fraud, will the man with multiple identities finally face justice?
Here's Andrea Canning with The Man of Many Faces.
All right, so the episode opens up and we are on Mary Grabinski, and she is talking to AC about an assault that she suffered in college in, I think, 2008. And she details it of this guy named Nicholas Alahverdian that she had met on MySpace. And although she had a boyfriend, he's like, no, I want to get together. I don't have any friends in the area. This is in Dayton, Ohio, I believe. So she says, go ahead and you can join me and my friend for lunch. They go to lunch and he wants to walk her to her classroom. But what did Nicholas do when they got to the hallway of the classroom?
He pinned her up against the wall and he sexually assaulted her. He tried to get into her pants. He pulled them down a little bit and then he just started jerking off on her, basically. And people came into the hallway who were trying to get into the class and they just saw it and ran off. Nobody got help. Nobody intervened. That's awful.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Because the way she describes it,
probably just thought we were horny teenagers and ran right out.
Maybe they thought that we were just horny teens. But what she said he's up to, I feel like you'd know right away she's not into this.
Yeah.
With the double handing.
Absolutely. And she's saying, stop, don't.
Yeah. So he finishes and she just goes to class. She's in shock.
And he's there waiting for her when class gets out. And he's like, hey, sorry.
Yep. And he's full of sorries.
He was begging me at that point not to press charges or to tell anybody what had happened.
Dude, this guy, not only is he an asshole, he's also gross looking.
Oh, yeah. Very gross. He's got a real gross vibe. He's got some dandruff issues, which I know, haha, from a bald guy. But this guy didn't look clean. Is all I'm saying. What do you think, Kate?
No. Very greasy.
Yeah.
Very unwashed.
Yeah. So he's begging Mary to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. My B. And she's like, I'm not listening to that. She goes straight to campus police and reports it. They report it to the next, to the real cops, but it doesn't go anywhere until when?
He accuses her of being the aggressor.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're guilty.
Yeah.
He didn't have to say anything.
Ugh. This thing goes to trial, and even though Nicholas tried all he could do to smear the name of Mary, he does lose. Doesn't have to do any jail time. He's got like probation. He has to go to like a rapist class to learn not to do it and stuff. And then 15 years as a registered sex offender. Now that is going to play a key role throughout this
in this international manhunt, question mark?
Yeah. I can't wait until we can talk about the innocent Irish orphan.
Me? Yes, they're looking into you.
Okay, I'm looking at that phrase on my notes and I'm like, oh my God. Okay, but before we get there, we've got to go back in time. Let's talk about the beginning of this monster that attacked Mary Grabinski in that classroom basement. He was born in 87, and he has a rough upbringing. We see pictures of his mom and dad. The only picture of his dad is a shirtless pic at a table where he's all tatted up and looking real scary.
So you know that's rough, if that's the only picture. He looks like he should be in... he looks like maybe a retired semi-pro wrestler.
Okay. Or I could see it. It's a picture of the guy you would imagine moments before the TV show Cops bursts in the door. Mm-hmm. And then he's on the run, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's got a real skis ball vibe to him.
Nicholas's father was a felon, became so dangerous. Nicholas's mother got a restraining order.
And his mom, we see, is dressed up as a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, right?
For Halloween.
That was cool. She had a few looks. You don't know that was Halloween, was it?
Well, she wasn't a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader.
Okay, well, that's up for debate. Maybe she was.
Wouldn't they have said that?
Yeah, probably. They probably would have brought it up. So the mom has some rough times ahead because the husband leaves her. And we talked to Nicholas's stepdad, David Rossi. Now tell us about old Rossi, Kateline, because this is where the fun starts, in my opinion.
He admits to getting so fed up with Nicholas's bullshit that he beats the shit out of him. He admits that, and he's like, I know that was wrong, but this kid was bad.
AC is mortified.
She's like, that's child abuse. And he's like, yeah, well, this kid sucked.
Yeah, he literally goes, he was the devil's spawn, okay? Like, he ruined every Christmas.
Yeah, a point where you don't know what to do with this kid. He ruined every Thanksgiving, every Christmas.
So this kid sucked, and he was really smart, and he knew it. And this guy, Rossi's got a real look and voice to him. Apparently, also, he made his living as an Engelbert Humperdinck impersonator, or, like, cover band guy, right? And they say he, like, hung out with the real Engelbert. That was probably one show he went to, right? They show a pic.
One time.
And then they even play a little clip of him singing.
David was an Engelbert Humperdinck impersonator who mingled with his idol and sang his hit songs.
So I sing it asleep.
And it sounds like the guy we're talking to, which is so funny because the next time we hear him talk, he's saying how he picked him up in his underwear, put him on the bus, and the bus went to school.
He was swinging at her, swinging at me. I picked him up, put him on the bus in his underwear. The bus drove away. The school called us. But, you know.
No, look, that's not very cool of him. Let's also get on this bus driver for pulling away.
Yeah.
Right?
That's also child abuse. The thing is, I believe David Rossi that he was the devil's spawn.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what kind of hell he raised in that house. But you can't put a kid on the bus in his underwear.
No.
He's a child,
I know.
though, and you're an adult,
I
and
know.
that's child abuse.
I snapped.
David Rossi's biggest offense happened at Disney World when Nicholas was 10. He's beating up his mom again. That's when Rossi literally beat him half to death and he ended up in the hospital. Okay? And this is again, AC is going, what? And this guy's like, hey, I own it. I own my mistakes.
I own the fact that I almost killed a kid.
When I tell you I snapped like that, I couldn't take no more. I beat the hell out of him. I put him in the hospital.
What?
Yeah. I lost it. I'm ashamed of it. I always will be.
And why would he? I mean, look, he's got some issues because right after this, he bailed on the family. Now, luckily, he was man enough to come back and be on TV with Dateline.
But I can understand why the mom didn't want to press charges. It sounds like they both just hated this kid.
He was wicked. He was a devil's spawn. He really was.
Yeah, you're right. Then the mom, stuck raising these kids on her own again, cannot do it. And this is where Nicholas joins the foster kid system.
Well, Nicholas claims that he had a really rough time in the foster care system, that he was further abused and neglected. And during this time, he took an interest in local government, which is also kind of a red flag. And he worked as a page in the local What building was that? The Capitol building?
It's like where all the court stuff happens.
Courthouse? I don't know. I didn't realize they had pages, but he was into it.
Arrangements were made to give Nick a job at the State House.
It was the perfect fit for Nicholas, and he became a fixture at Rhode Island's seat of power.
All the politicians knew who he was, and he was kind of becoming a person of note in local government. And at one point, he asked people at the courthouse that he worked with if they would adopt him because he was about to age out of the system and he was having a rough time.
He called from the courthouse. He called one of these representatives. And we talked to one of the representatives, Brian Coogan. Now, Coogan is a character. He's what he says that he met him over there at the Rotunda. I liked his voice.
I first met Nick across from the Rotunda.
He gets a call from a teary Nicholas that says, I can't get put back in the system. Please adopt me. And Nicholas, meanwhile, they all know him as this little kid who's wearing suits and stuff at the office. They got a lot of shots of him, like, dolled up like a little businessman boy in his suit and tie and stuff. So this Coogan guy rushes to the judge and says, Judge, you got to let me adopt this kid. And this judge does something highly questionable, but it speaks to the monster the devil's spawn was. Because the judge goes, dude, this file here?
Trust me, everything he's telling you that's being done to him, he's actually doing to the other kids.
Wow.
I can't show you this file, but that's what's in there, and you better skedaddle. And Coogan said, thanks for the pro tip, Judge. Boo!
I'm out of here. Bye.
Coogan took the judge's advice and maybe dodged a bullet.
Yeah. Now, side note on Coogan, I had to look him up because he had a vibe to me. I was like, something tells me there's more to this Coogan guy. He ran for some office in 2016, and the person he was running against had, like, yard signs in people's yards. And he rolled up with, like, his girlfriend on the back of his hog. He's got a Harley, right?
Of course.
He pulls up, and she hops off to tear out the signs of the person opposing him.
Mm-hmm.
They get back on the bike. Uh-oh, bike tips over. They fall off, along with other stolen signs. And he got arrested for it and everything. I mean, just a delight. Tipping over on a motorcycle cannot look cool, right?
Yeah, not wiping out.
No.
Just a gentle tip over.
Yeah.
Good, honey.
So he does eventually, he stays with one more family that was really nice, but then he turns 19, he's out of the system. And is this when he goes to college?
He goes to Utah?
Oh, yeah. Did all that happen in Utah?
No.
That's the thing. There's Rhode Island, Utah, and Ohio.
Oh, yeah. Was it Rhode Island where he was a page?
Yes. All that stuff happened in Rhode Island.
It's very confusing.
Yeah. It is confusing, and I guess we'll get through it, because as we know of him, he is this, like, a little junior achiever at the courthouse and stuff. Like, he's making the best of it. He's wanting to sue the Department of Youths or whatever. He wants to sue the system because of the treatment that he got as a kid.
Even though we know that he was the one abusing others.
Yeah. And he says, because you know what? Kids matter. There's a weird line about him saying kid stuff. Okay.
Oh, yeah. He gives a little press conference when he's trying to get this bill passed. And this was wild because this happened. They said that he did this after college, that he went away to college and came back to the courthouse. And that did not look like a college graduate to me. He still looked like he was like 16 years old. He was not well-spoken.
Yeah.
His voice was super high-pitched. He looked like a child. And he's like, kids matter.
Yeah.
It's kids. And you know what? Kids are more important.
Okay, so now we're caught up to the point where he's in legal trouble with Mary Grabinski. He's lost his court case against her. But he doesn't stop there. He continues to sue her for, like, libel. And at one point, she gets married later on. This is a year's process. And her husband calls him crazy on a blog, and he brings charges against her for this. Now, this is where I really hate him and people who abuse the law like this. Because she had to pay for legal aid. Like, yes, he lost and had to pay her back, but you think he really paid her back? And she still had to pay for that initially. What would you do if somebody sued you and you had to hire a lawyer? I'd be devastated, honestly.
Kurt, it may happen to us with this podcast.
Okay, well...
And you know what? If Nicholas wants to come for us, I say bring it on.
Now, at this point in the story, I would say, but Kate, you're too late, because old Nicholas is R.I.P.
His obituary, sent out by the office of Nicholas Alahverdian, ran in local papers in the Boston Globe.
We skipped over the other wife, and the reason why he's on the run in Europe.
Oh, wait. You're right. Forgot about Church Lady. Okay, so pause on the faking your death stuff. We got to go back to his second wife, Catherine.
At some point, he moves to Utah after college, which unclear what college that is. He tells people it's Harvard, but there's only records of him going to a community college for a couple years, maybe not. I don't even know if he has a degree.
Yeah.
And he had just taken a Harvard extension course, which
whatever that is.
Anyone can take those. They're online.
Yeah.
And claimed that he was a Harvard grad. He moves to Utah and he meets Catherine at church.
Here we go again,
and
Kateline.
Catherine thinks this guy's a catch. He's a Harvard grad. He's really smart. He's good with computers. And he's a church-going guy.
And she goes, how can you go wrong there? And Kurt Money and Kateline go, well, let us list the ways.
You had us at church.
Now, look, there might be church dudes out there that are as genuine as Catherine was looking for. She was really wanting a good husband. But it's clear to us, the rabid Dateline watchers, that the church is a great place for scumbags to pretend to be good, to catch poor, naive ladies who just want to start a family, right? I was feeling for Catherine here.
And I said, perfect. A church guy.
Yeah.
This is pretty safe. You can't get any safer than this.
They were married very quickly. He proposed, and the next day they got married.
Yeah, they did a courthouse biz.
And I don't know how long they were dating, just a little while. And he hadn't even met her family or any of her friends before they were married. And immediately, the very next day after their courthouse wedding, he beats the shit out of her.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
He's an awful person who imprisons her in her own house, locks her in rooms, sometimes for days at a time. In the bathroom. He spends all of her money. He claims that he needs loans for his business, and then she would give him her entire...
For his nonprofit.
I assume it's for, again, helping kids in the system.
Okay, it was to bring back the pizzazz to Dayton, Ohio. That's not my word. That was the wife's word. It was a nonprofit to bring back the pizzazz to Dayton, Ohio.
What was that about?
Just to raise money to kind of bring back the life, the pizzazz back to Dayton.
So they're not in Utah. They're in Ohio.
Oh, I guess they are. Yeah.
They moved back? Mm-hmm. It's very unclear where he is at what time.
Yeah.
So his nonprofit is bullshit. He never does a single thing for the city of Dayton. And she gives him her entire life savings to put into this nonprofit. And he just spends it on clothes and first-class flights places, and she's not allowed to spend any of it. She's not allowed to work. She can't do anything. She just funds his, unbeknownst to her, is funding his lavish lifestyle. But then you see where they live, and it's nothing lavish. And I'm looking at his clothes and all the stuff that he spent money on, and he still looks like shit.
Yeah. His look wasn't getting past you, huh?
No.
Because they did say he spent it on expensive clothes, but
no,
I guess not the right ones.
And also, where are you getting expensive clothes in Dayton, Ohio?
Dayton, Ohio burn.
Well,
look out.
They're not known for having all of the hot retail spots.
Well, it sounds like they're lacking in pizzazz. And have I got the nonprofit for you? Okay.
Jesus Christ. So
wait, but they show a picture of him on fine dining, and it's just a charcuterie board with some champagne or something.
Oh yeah,
it's real sad.
And they don't even look like
this guy spends $55,000.
It doesn't even look like in that picture that he's at a fancy restaurant. It's
no, it's on their other couch.
It's on the couch at his house, and there's just some cheese on a board.
Yeah, not cool. He spends this to her as you got to give me this money, or we won't make money, and we won't be able to eat. Okay, and that'll be on you. So she ends up giving him all this money she had saved for college that her parents had been saving since she was a little baby. $55,000 he spends. But she's determined to get out of this. And so she talks to somebody, and so she gets the good idea to record him so she has proof of, why he was so dangerous. And they play us a taste of that.
Can you play some of that for us today?
Yeah.
And he's screaming at her. And what happened at the end of that call? I mean, they were wrestling or something. It got really scary there.
Oh, yeah.
Stop ignoring me! Stop it!
No! Stop!
And AC's really uncomfortable. She's terrified listening to that call, and then is that takes you right back to that moment, doesn't it? I can see that you're trembling. And Catherine's yep, it's happening all over again in my head.
Yeah. And She might have got a little teary-eyed and stuff. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that later.
We might.
Okay. So one day she decides, that's it, I've had enough. And she waits till he's gone, and she bolts out of there, leaves her dogs behind, just makes a run for it. Now, he's got a GPS on her phone, right? So he starts to chase her down. And then they are in a car chase, and it's so hectic, she literally gets into an accident because she, like, tries to blow a stop sign or whatever because she's being chased. Gets into this wreck, and then all of a sudden, Nicholas doesn't want anything to do with it. He dips out of there.
That actually is a pro move. If you're ever being chased, you either drive right into the police station or you purposely crash your car, because then that'll draw attention. And so whoever's chasing you will bail.
Boy, that's good pro tip. Ideally, you're in a wreck with someone else. Because if you just, like, hit a wall or something...
Oh, yeah. You can't be hitting a pole on a desolate road, because then they'll come for you.
Yeah.
It has to be a big show in a busy place. Hopefully, you don't hurt anybody, but pick up your car and they'll take off.
That is a good point. So she gets a lawyer, and Nicholas agrees to give back the dogs and allow her to come back to the house to pack up. But he left a little surprise back there for her, just to let her know who's boss. What was sitting on the couch?
A gun. But
friggin' gun.
I thought it would be funny if she took it.
Right? Yeah. Oh, thanks.
You left me a gun.
Oh, okay. I'll take this. That is funny. I see her point of he's, like, trying to, scare her and stuff, but I'm with you. Then, like, hey, he left it. He left it for me.
Or write a note that says, mine's bigger.
Yeah, that's good. That would piss him off.
She could have taken it to the police, because I'm sure he didn't register that gun.
Good friggin' point. Okay, gun on the pillow. That is the end of the Kateline arc. Zip back to the faking your death. All the newspapers get a notice that Nicholas Alahverdian is dead and gone. And all the people at the State House, all these constituents, all these representatives, they get a press release. And it says, we are sad to report that due to him a lifelong struggle with non-Hodgkin lymphoma, Nicholas Alahverdian has died. This is in 2020.
Yeah, because someone claiming to be his widow was calling from Europe to find priests in Rhode Island or wherever, or Ohio, to do the service.
A woman named Louise.
Yeah, and, they do a full court press on, mourn our guy here, because they reach out to multiple churches and say, can you, have a service in his name? And we hear multiple, dummies in the courthouse say, we'd like to take a minute to talk about the passing of one of our own, right?
Right.
I bet they feel dumb now.
House resolution expressing condolences on the passing of Nicholas Alahverdian.
It's a House resolution expressing the passing of Nicholas Alahverdian.
Very, very sad. May you rest in peace, Nicholas.
But then the feds called all of the priests and have them shut it down. So they can't get any priests to agree to host a funeral service because the feds are intervening.
Yeah.
Detective O'Donnell asked Father Healy to cancel the service, but keep the reason a secret.
AC set him up for a perfect priest joke.
You had to be a little untruthful to her.
Correct. I had to go to confession after all that, yes.
I had to go to confession later. Classic priest humor. So while all this is going on, we're almost to where it's comfortable to talk about, because it's just one friggin' interview.
That's it, right? Blah.
We're almost there. But we gotta say, so in 2020, when all these death notices are coming in, what was really going on, he also has a history of assault allegations, not just from his ex-wife Catherine or Mary, the girl in college. There are other women that he's attacking, right? And so now is when we mention the Utah guy Levitt, you think?
Yeah.
Are we going to talk about the Rhode Island, me, myself, and Irene guy? Those Rhode Islands, they got a almost Canadian outfit going. You know what I'm talking about? The black with the red on the top?
It was a little Nazi-esque.
A little? I was going to ask you what the hell is he wearing until I remembered me, myself, and Irene, because that's straight up what he's got on is that outfit.
Mm-mm. Yeah.
Look, I'm not here to twist your niblets.
What?
Sound good, candy bands.
I'm with you, though. It's got a weird vibe to it.
I was not loving it.
Vibe.
Why would any colors be black and red?
Yeah, good call. Yeah, that was weird.
Blue. In this country, our police forces wear blue. That's their whole thing, actually. Blue.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I see blue. He looks glorious.
The law is really catching up with him. So much so that he gets put on Rhode Island's Most Wanted. And this is when we're talking to the guy in the outfit, Connor O'Donnell. And AC's like, so did you get any calls from that? And he's like, oh, as a matter of fact, I did. From Nicholas. The dude himself calls to berate him because he's like, I moved out of the country. I don't have to tell you that I moved as a sex offender now, you dummy. This was kind of funny.
You should know the law as someone who works for it. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, pal. Yeah. We didn't know you moved, guy.
Right.
It didn't take too long. We got a phone call from Nick.
From Nick?
Yeah.
Okay, so now he's living overseas. Now, but, you know, as the friends and family that he does have back in the States, they all think he's dead. They buy it hook, line, and sinker. But this one guy, this one DA, what was Levitt? He was in office for something.
He was, because he was up for re-election. So it must have been the DA or sheriff.
Okay, so I think DA because he's a lawyer, I believe.
Okay.
A county attorney named David Levitt.
And now he's gunning for him because he had like old rape kits that had never been tested, which is wild. Why are they allowed to exist? When you collect a rape kit, let's plug it into CODIS. What do you think?
Absolutely.
It infuriated him that women had filed complaints, subjected themselves to rape exams, but police never followed up.
So he's going through these old cases, and he gets a hit on one of them because Nicholas's DNA is in the system from the Mary Grabinski case. Now, this is another woman that we don't know name of or anything, and so now Levitt's out for blood.
Did you start getting hits?
We got a hit for a registered sex offender.
That sex offender was none other than Nicholas Rossi.
This part kind of annoyed me because people were really playing into the fact that he was supposedly very tech savvy.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the word genius was thrown around and that they couldn't track him. And I was like, yeah, guys, it's a VPN. They said, like, right. Every time we tried to trace his IP, it would jump around. Yeah, you can get that at Best Buy.
That's like step one of hiding your location.
That's not a tech genius. Anyone who works remotely for a company has one.
Yeah.
The agent told him Nicholas, the computer whiz, sent them in circles, never in the location that matched the IP address.
That was Coogan that was asking the FBI. He's like, what's up, guys? Why can't you catch this guy? And as Coogan tells it, the FBI is like, this kid's good.
He's so
the
good.
Best I've ever seen.
He's the best. He's got a VPN.
Yeah.
He says, let me tell you, this kid is so good. One of the best I've ever seen.
So it's the woman claiming to be his widow that is calling, that they trace the number to, right?
Right. So he disappears. If he's not dead, he's somewhere in Europe. So right now he's off the radar. This is like 2020 into 2021. They can't find this guy. But what they have a hit at a hospital in Glasgow because of COVID. They get a pop in the system. And it looks like this is Nicholas Alahverdian or Nicholas Rossi. But he's not Nicholas. This is where we're introduced to the innocent Irish orphan, Arthur Knight.
He told us he's an innocent Irish orphan named Arthur Knight.
Now, what's Arthur Knight's backstory, Kate? Tell us about Arthur.
Arthur is from Ireland. He is coincidentally around the exact same age as Nicholas and looks like his identical twin. But no,
he's got the same skin.
Same skin, same eyes, same teeth, same hair, same greasy overall vibe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he was also an orphan, according to him.
An innocent Irish orphan.
Yep.
And then
he's from all over.
And then he moved all over and he made something of himself and became a businessman.
Had a very good run as a public relations consultant.
He's married to this woman named Miranda. We see a photo of their wedding. That did not look like him at all. I think throughout this whole thing, there's no confusion that Nicholas is Arthur. But this one wedding photo, it didn't look like him, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't him because Miranda is fully in on this con.
Oh, she's part of it. And that comes up because, so AC makes the trip to Europe.
We came to Scotland to get to the bottom of this mystery.
And at first I was suspicious like they were doing a green screen, but I think that was just because of the bounce light thing. Anyway, AC's there. She talks to...
That's funny, actually. My husband had the same thought. He was like, is she actually there? That looks like a green screen.
Right.
But I knew she was there.
Good, honey.
He also had a funny reaction. So when this originally aired, which was 2021, I guess? 2022. I started watching it, and the beginning showed clips of the cringy interview. And my husband came into the room and saw the clip.
I am not, Andrea, I am not Nicholas Alahverdian.
No, I can't. And walked out.
What?
And then the other day, when I was watching it again, he came into the room, he saw the clip of the interview and went, "Oh, God, no, I can't," and walked out again. He was like, "I remember this one. I can't."
Boy, that is wild.
He did come back in and watch, but he was like tucking his head inside his shirt during the interview. He just couldn't handle how embarrassing it was.
Andrea!
Look, I am the first one to feel ox and cringe on stuff, but there's something about this because he's so clearly bad at what he's attempting. I didn't feel this at all. This was just like a bad sketch show to me. Kind of.
Andrea, no, that's a low blow.
Right? Like, there was no threat of us ever buying it.
No.
I suppose.
But
so it didn't...
I think it was specifically the moment where he, quote unquote, tries to stand up. That's the one. He had to close his eyes and look away.
Let me try to stand up. Let me try to stand up. Exactly. Exactly. You're laughing now.
That moment was so brutal that even this tried and true investigative reporter, Andrea Canning, can't help herself but laugh.
We need to talk in detail about this interview.
Okay.
So C goes over there.
So this Arthur Knight guy, he's like, "I'm not Nicholas. This guy who's being charged with all this stuff and this rape stuff. That's not me at all. I'm a businessman." And his wife is supporting it. And so he's like making the rounds in the media over in Europe defending himself. And he's saying, "I'm not that guy." And, well, first let's talk about the blonde British lady before AC's interview.
Jane.
Okay? AC talks with Jane, who is a reporter over there who did a podcast on this called I'm Not Nicholas, good old Dateline plug of pod.
For her Audible podcast called I Am Not Nicholas, she got up close and personal with Arthur when he and his wife Miranda invited her over for dinner.
And she had interviewed Nicholas, like he went over to his house, they had a nice champagne chicken dinner. Champagne again.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Okay. And she's talking to him, and she's over there for hours, and she finally says, "Okay, if you are Arthur Knight and you're not Nicholas Rossi, a.k.a. Alahverdian, let's see those tats." Because there are, the feds who are looking for Nicholas on credit card fraud, they sent over all their info, and it's like, look for these sleeves. He's got tattoos up and down both arms.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reporter's like, "Hey, show me your arms." And he pulls, this is weird, because Arthur Knight pulls up on his big screen TV the images of the tattoos and then pulls his sleeve up to his elbow. And that arm is free of tats.
And she made a point of saying it didn't look like it had any scarring from tattoo removal, which I'm like, there aren't any. Like, tattoo removal, you're not going to have scars. And it also didn't look like he was wearing makeup to cover it up. And so we're just supposed to think at this point, like, oh, wow, it's not him. This is really just some other guy. It's mistaken identity. But AC's like,
I mean,
how many glasses of champagne had you had?
So I thought this man in front of me was Arthur Knight, and the authorities had made a mistake. And I was like, good God.
Yeah, because I feel like me and everybody else watching this is going, okay, he showed one half of one arm. Let's see the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you know what I mean? I mean, look, hindsight and whatnot, we're here on the other end. But I wouldn't buy, that would not be enough for me to go, this guy's really Arthur Knight. I'd go pull that up all the way.
Uh-huh.
Because it takes forever to get tats removed. Okay, so anyway, she buys it. Because she's like, ooh, no tats. Okay. And then this is when AC gets in on it. And she sits down for a little interview with Arthur Knight and his wife Miranda. And this is where the lulls begin. And they don't ever stop.
Andrea, I am not Nicholas Alahverdian, and I do not know how to make this clear.
Okay, there's like 4 moments in here where I'm dying. Because, let's be real here, Arthur Knight is Nicholas Alahverdian. Okay? This is clearly the Nicholas guy. This is the gross guy we're talking about. Now, he's got a COVID mask on, and he's got a little nose thing attached to a tank because he has hypoxia or something.
Yes.
But he sits down with AC, and I mean, just tell us some of the hits of this interview, Kate. I mean, where to begin?
Well, a while back we heard from Catherine, his wife, that when he was buying all those fancy clothes, he decided that bow ties were going to be his thing. And wouldn't you know that this guy is wearing a bow tie in his interview with AC?
Ah.
So right away, it's like, okay, nice try. And then also Mary saw this interview and was like, oh, that's him. Yep, that's him. No doubt about it.
You remember what she said? Because AC asked her, she goes, was that him? And she goes, yeah, he's bloated and grotesque, but that's him.
Yep. So
I was like, burn, get it in.
He's bloated and grotesque, but that's him. That's him. The hair, the teeth, and especially like the fingers, the hands. I remember those hands.
He's doing a very poor English accent.
Oh.
That's it just the laziest, weakest English accent you've ever heard.
Yeah.
He's pretending to struggle to breathe.
And we'd like privacy, and I would like to go back to being a normal husband.
He's in a wheelchair,
It's that
but
hypoxia, man.
it's not just any wheelchair. It's like one that he can control with a joystick, which it's like, that's for people who have paralysis.
Yeah.
He doesn't have paralysis.
No. He doesn't have a damn thing.
No. And his wife, who I don't trust at all and know she's fully in on it, she closed her eyes every time she talked. Those eyes were closed. She'd close them to say a sentence and then open them at the end.
And her big proof that Arthur cannot be Nicholas is that Arthur's never raped her.
Mm.
Okay? And they don't lose that behavior. So I know who he is.
I know he's not a rapist, 100%.
And this is when the lady who did the podcast, she found a recording of Nicholas's wife calling the churches.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we hear this recording. And who's it sound just like?
Sounds like Miranda.
Straight up.
Basically, the priest was explaining that he had done his first funeral on Monday.
Yeah, and even I love it when the podcaster goes, and I know my British accents. I was like, that's all I need to hear.
Yep.
She's the real deal. If she could spot it, I'm in.
Yeah, because there are so many different accents on that tiny island. And if she can sense a very nuanced regional accent coming from Miranda, there's no doubt that that's her. To us, it's like, I don't know, it's British. But to her, it's like, nope, that's a certain county in a certain area.
It was just an automatic, oh my God, that's Miranda. I mean, you know, I know my British accents.
I mean, I would say up until now, you know what this AC interview with Arthur Knight, you know what it's dethroned? Is her interview with Remy.
No.
I feel like, what? What's up?
You think?
It is Remy, easy. You sound arrogant again.
It's not arrogance. It's the truth.
Remy, I forgot how much energy you have.
I think in the sense that she is so clearly unable to stay professional.
She can't.
Because it's so awful. She breaks. She literally breaks in this interview. And he gets mad. He goes, see, I see you laughing.
Let me try to stand up. Exactly. Exactly. So let's you're laughing now. This is what people do to me.
What was the best line, Kate? The best line is AC goes, are you sure that this isn't just a big lie? And he starts to cry and stuff. And he goes, that's a low blow, Andrea. That's a right low blow.
Uh-huh. Andrea, no, that's a low blow. That's a right low blow. Crocodile tears? Do you think I can? I don't believe that.
That right there has been delighting me since I watched it. I mean, a right low blow. That sounds like someone pretending to be British, pretending to be offended.
Cheerio,
right?
pip, pip.
Yeah!
And it's at that point where he's so worked up that he's like, I'm going to try to stand. You want to see me try to stand? I can't. And he kind of goes up on his arms a little bit, and then Miranda is like, oh, no. And he's fully able to stand, but he's pretending that he can't. And then he sits back down. And Andrea's like, oh,
he falls.
God.
He falls.
Oh, he quote-unquote falls.
AC's like, okay, can we just move your mask? Because this guy, he's lucky that COVID happened during all this, because his chompers, his teeth would be the tell-all, because they all have a gap between them, right?
Yep.
And so AC is like, can you just move your mask for 1 second? And this terrible liar, this terrible fraud tries to talk his way around it. AC's not having it.
He's like, I can't. I will die. I need this oxygen mask.
Would you take your mask off for 1 second just to show us your face?
I can. When I catch my breath, yes.
But can you just show us now?
Well, I'm hypoxic, so I'm telling you, yes, I will.
He never took it off.
The thing is, if you were really good at fleeing the country and changing your identity, you would get new teeth. You would get maybe some kind of surgery. You can wear contacts for an interview. He does the bare minimum.
Accent and
putting an oxygen mask over his mouth.
Yeah. So when this episode aired in 2022, that's where it ended. It was like people were after him, right? We thought this was going to be a repeat again, but then it was a full fatty, and I realized this puppy's been updated because there's a whole other chapter to it.
Mm-hmm.
This was a real delight because they were saying update, but they say that all the time. But when I realized that we're going to get a conclusion to this, I was pretty pumped. Huh?
Yeah, they brought his ass back to the United States. Oh, but first he had to go to court in the UK.
Right, and he is so pissed. This is when he's in that hospital in Glasgow, and when they are trying to arrest him and say, you can't stay here, you got to come with us, he straight up got up out of bed and, like...
assaulted them.
Attacked them.
So he got arrested.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, oh, look who can walk again. This is great.
Uh-huh.
This is great.
Yep. And the judge in his white wig is like, nope, get out of here.
No.
I am ultimately satisfied on the balance of probabilities by the evidence of fingerprint, photographic and tattoo evidence that Mr. Knight is indeed Nicholas Rossi.
Nobody's buying it for a second because here's what they have. Fingerprints, DNA, and tattoos.
Uh-huh.
Because they made him show the rest of his arms, and he said, oh, you know what? When I was in my coma from my COVID-related illnesses, Levitt, that guy from Utah, had somebody sneak in here and give me tattoos.
Mm-hmm.
Dude.
That was his defense.
That is, oh my, because you see the tattoos, those would take 2 weeks of appointments to put on. Like, nobody's going in there to give him a tattoo overnight where they're full color tats.
And at this point, we also learn that Levitt's re-election did not go well because of Nicholas. He put up all these fake websites accusing him of all sorts of stuff to the point where he had to give a press conference to be like, it's not true.
That this all occurs less than 1 week before ballots drop in an election in which I am participating causes me tremendous concern.
But it didn't matter. It cost him the election, which is like, dude, again, he's not tech savvy. He just made some shitty websites.
Yeah, maybe Levitt's downfall was having the press conference at all.
Yes, totally. That was tacky. He may have won had he not leaned into it. Because how many people are really seeing this smear campaign by Nicholas in the town that they live in?
Great point.
How many people?
Yeah.
It's not like he's getting airtime on TV being like, this guy sucks. They're just some shitty websites.
Yeah, and the things he's being accused of are like that he's a cannibal and he's the head of a criminal cult. It's like, dude, you don't need to respond to that.
That's not real.
As a matter of fact, if you let those words out of your mouth, now I am suspicious because that's so absurd. You shouldn't worry about that.
No, people claim that of everybody. Like any celebrity has those same accusations.
They're like, yep, that guy ate people.
Yeah, and now Levitt, I mean, I guess we'll wait to the very end to talk about what he's up to now. Here's my take on Levitt. He's really pretending like he's the all-star of this episode. He really wants that ILH all-star title, and I'm not giving it to him.
No, it's not going to him. It's going to one of the ladies.
Totally. He says a lot of stuff like, it just got to the point where I was like...
The choice was simple. Do I save my political career, or do I do my job and take the man down?
It's like, dude, you made the decision to attack him before you knew it was going to cost you your election. You didn't have a choice in the matter at that point. So he's really painting it like he's like this... What word am I looking for? Like a
savior?
That's it. Some kind of a savior. And then the weirdest outcome for him is at the end of the episode, he and AC are at a castle he bought in Scotland.
Some people here in Scotland are calling this castle your FU castle. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
What was your take on this castle?
Well, I have been over there, and these castles, there are thousands, and they're not always authentically from like the year 800. I have a story. I was driving through the countryside in the Peak District in England and came across yet another little castle, and I went over and checked it out, and it was like, no, this was built in the 60s. They have so many that are like made to look old, or they were some kind of military tower at some point, but now they're refashioned into things. And also, this castle that he lived in, it had modern vinyl windows in it.
Oh, I didn't know.
They're the cheapest, ugliest windows. It's like, I'm not buying it for a second that this is some castle. It looks like ass.
And even AC called it a fixer-upper castle.
Yeah, it looks like shit. It's not historic in the way that they want you to think. It's just one of many. And yeah, anyone can go over there and buy one.
He bought this fixer-upper Scottish castle called Knockderry.
Yeah, and saying it's 50 miles from where Nicholas got arrested, I don't know. It didn't feel like a FU castle.
No, that doesn't mean anything because the country's so small. 50 miles is like Everywhere is like 50 miles.
Yeah. Okay, now if this wasn't Levitt we're talking about and it was old Kurt Money over there, I'd still take that 1960s castle because that means it's built for modern stuff like phone lines, internet and stuff. Not internet in the 60s, but you see where I'm going with this.
Sure. His may have all that.
Would you want a castle? I want one, Kate. Okay, I want that big yard. I know that technically every castle is a fixer-upper. So the fact that AC called this one specifically a fixer-upper, you know it's looking disgusto in there with those vinyl windows and stuff. You don't know what else is going on behind the scenes, but it's probably a dump.
Yeah, I'm not interested in castles. I'm more interested in manor homes.
What's that? Like Downton Abbey house?
Yeah, although I don't like the style of Downton. It's a little too gothic for me. But if we're talking...
Okay.
If we're talking, some of the estates that are owned by the royal family and operated by the monarchy, there are wings that are fully modernized, and then there are the wings that are open to the public, and the grounds are beautiful, and they don't look like castles necessarily. They look they're more I want to say the style is architecture. Kate should know this.
I think I know what you mean. They still look old as fuck, and I would say arguably any house over there is probably going to look kind of sweet. Do they have subdivisions like we do of cookie cutter houses? They
do.
They just don't tell us about it, do they?
They don't.
They just tell you about the cool spots.
But their cookie cutter houses are, I think they look ugly just like ours do, but they're in a different style. It's all brick and stone, but it's sad in its own way, just like ours.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's not perfect over there.
No.
Okay, so is it Utah or Ohio? He gets extradited? Is that right?
Uh-huh.
They take him back. They say, send him over here. We're going to press him with charges. Now, this is where the update happens. And we see old Nicholas Alahverdian, Nicholas Rossi, Arthur Knight in court. No beard, no mask. We got to see everything, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's him.
And we know it's him. It's totally him. And he has to... This was not cringe. This was frustrating for me that the court even had to hear him talk. Because what does he say? We learn after 3 years of saying, I'm Arthur Knight. I'm an innocent Irish orphan. What does he reveal to us in court?
That he's Nicholas Rossi Alahverdian, and it's been him the whole time.
And why was he pretending to be someone else?
I would assume to escape all of the charges against him.
Well, most likely, but according to him, Kate, he was forced to take on the role of Arthur Knight because of two people that were threatening his life. And the court asks, who are those two people? And he says, I can't give a mouse cheese. Sorry, guys. Can't give a mouse cheese. And the guy goes, what do you mean you can't give a mouse cheese?
But when asked the names of the people allegedly threatening him,
I don't want to give a mouse cheese.
What would giving their names, how would that give a mouse cheese?
And so they empty the court, and he supposedly told the judge who these two people were that were threatening his life because he refused to say it in open court. I mean, this is absolute nonsense, too. But he says that he did all of this to protect himself. And this is when the other people are going in court, if you wanted to hide, why did you have all these press conferences?
Totally. It's clear that he was just making all of this up as he went along. He's not some great mastermind. He would just get himself into a bind and try to lie his way out. But he was really bad at it. And
he's terrible at it.
His wife, Miranda, is not facing any charges, even though she should, for fraud and for aiding and abetting a criminal.
Yeah, and AC tried to talk to her. And now this is something I see on 48 Hours. Your Peter Van Zants will do this all day long, where they're like waiting to surprise somebody and be like, do you have anything to say about this? Because as Miranda's walking into court, there's AC waiting, and she ignores him. She ices AC.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to say today about the hearing?
We don't usually see that move on Dateline, right?
No.
I feel like we don't see that a lot.
They're usually a little classier than that, but I was liking it.
I was loving it. Yeah.
We also didn't talk about the lady we mentioned before, the vegan thing.
There is this whole other woman that he conned. Like, I honestly don't know how he has the time to do all of this.
No. But he had to make a living while he was in Europe, so he decided rather than work an honest job, I'm going to con somebody. And this is a little on her too, because she found him on Upwork, and he claimed to be a Harvard grad with all this experience in doing marketing stuff. People with all that experience aren't necessarily going to be on Upwork. Like, I've been on Upwork, and I don't have super great credentials.
Hey, just fake it like this guy, because he got 30 grand out of her over a few months.
He did.
Because he was supposed to, like, run her website, and he's terrible at it, and he's not doing anything, and she'd be like, Arthur, what's up? And he'd send a picture of his dog or something. But what's wild, and this is where I'm with you, let's put it on her, is because he goes, hey, tell me about your other businesses, and let's create a board that my wife and I are on, and I'll, like, oversee all your stuff. And she's like, are you trying to take over my company? And he says, no, just oversee it. And she said yes to that, Kate. She said okay.
Even though he had never delivered a single thing.
Oh, no. And AC summed that up in what some might call a Murph Doggian line. Is she goes, Upwork? More like no work.
Zing.
It quickly became obvious the man she hired from Upwork was more like no work.
So now he has yet to have sentencing and stuff, because I looked it up. Yesterday, December 17th, he actually had a hearing to see if he was going to accept a plea deal, and he kicked it to January. Classic move.
So we don't know.
So we don't know what the outcome's going to be, but here's what I want to know, Kate. Is he keeping up that voice in prison? Because he kind of still did it in court a little.
No. Did he?
A little, because he's doing a scratchy voice that he's got to hold up forever. That's for sure, right? He's doing I'm sorry. Andrea, I'm sorry. Like, he's talking like that.
Meaning it would stoke the fire that they've had to continue.
And he's got a little accent in there. But what do you think in jail? Because he tried to make the jail call him Arthur Knight, and the judge was like, not happening, Nicholas.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up taking the plea.
Yeah, I mean, I think he should. What's next for this guy?
Do you think Miranda's waiting for him?
According to this episode, she is, and sending money when she can. That's what Miranda's doing. When I first saw this episode, I was like, this poor woman falling for this guy under the same guise that, like, Catherine did, where it's like finally a nice guy.
Yeah,
but
she's
in on his shit.
Crooked, just like him.
She's dirty too, so it's kind of like, I hope you guys are in love. Okay, before we go to lists, one more thing I gotta say. I loved hearing the Scottish press outside the court. They're like, you don't have to do the accent anymore. We know it's you.
Nicholas, you've completely failed to pull the wool over their eyes. You can take the hat off, you know who you are now.
Oh, God.
Oh, that was the good stuff. All right, well, let's go on to those lists.
Kate's unnamed list. Well, Catherine got teary-eyed, and she said, I'm sorry.
Did you feel just like a prisoner?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she sure did.
But you know what else happened, Kurt?
What's up?
In that cringy Arthur Knight interview, he cried and said, I'm sorry. And I was dying.
Yep, absolutely.
Are you crying, Arthur?
Forgive me. I'm sorry.
He apologized for his fake-ass tears.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. Okay, the 2 solid entries.
Yeah.
To crying and stopping and saying I'm sorry. Those are 2 great ones.
And that's it for my list.
Let's go on to Kurt's Kick-Ass List.
Kick-Ass List.
When AC is talking to Levitt about all the drama, because she was like, this was a huge bomb, right? Now that he's saying he is this guy and he wasn't pretending to be him. And she's like, ooh, this is like a thriller. Great stuff. So that's what gets on the list. And then Levitt, follow up, well, we weren't too thrilled. Boom. Right? That's it. I'm counting it. She didn't say movie, but thriller, she means movie.
This goes deep. This is like a thriller.
We didn't think it was too thrilling for us.
Levitt, the movie would not be about you. You wouldn't even be the bad guy in it, dude. I'm not impressed with you and your FU castle.
You're not the main character.
So get out of here.
You're not the all-star.
Yeah. Nope.
Your castle's tacky. Nope. Why do you have those windows?
Yeah. You know, and I'll do it. Let's say right here, Mary Grabinski gets the all-star.
Yes.
Because she had to put up with so much from this guy, even after beating him repeatedly in court. Like, he kept coming after her, and he'd say, well, it's hard for me to get dates now that I'm on the sex offenders registry. It's like, well, dude, that's kind of the point.
Maybe don't be a sex offender.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of sounds like your own doing. I felt for her because
when he said that, my husband was like, well, how would girls know if he was on the sex offender list? And I was like, dude, we Google every single guy before we go out with him. He had no idea.
Really? Mm-hmm. You checking those registries? I guess it would pop up there.
I have the registry on my phone, the app that shows like proximity and.
Okay. What was I just going to say? Oh, on Giving Mary the All-Star, old Arthur Knight did kind of get one up on her because she flew to Utah. She flew to see him get sentenced and stuff, and he refused to appear and was only there via Zoom.
Yeah.
I kind of felt bad.
But
she wanted to see him in the flesh.
She still felt like it was worth it to see him in the shackles on the other side of that video.
Yeah, and it saying like the Department of Justice or whatever behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'd still be pissed. I'd want to go visit him if I were her. I don't know. I'd be bummed.
Oh, man. How funny would it be to go visit someone and you're sitting behind the glass and you're like, so what's it like to be locked up forever? Fun?
Yeah.
Just torment them.
Yeah. Boy, I wouldn't do it to this guy. Even if this guy is convicted, well, unless there's something about the FBI and felonies, I mean, he's only going to do a few years, right?
Well, I don't know. He did leave the country and did crimes over there.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we'll find out if and when he takes the plea. This could be something that gets like 20, because sometimes these fraud cases, the sentencing will be like 40 years, and you'll be like, what?
Well, we'll have the scoop here on ILH for sure.
That's right. That's right. All right, well, that's the end of the ep. I would encourage the Holtheads to find us on Patreon, ILH, where we are covering non-Dateline things, but things adjacent to it. It's a ton of fun, and 2 new episodes come out a month, and it only costs you $2. Kateline, shouldn't they get their ass over to the Patreon?
Absolutely. Don't you want more of this magic?
That's right. And on that note, I'm Kurt Money.
I'm Kateline.
I'm Lester Holt. For all of us, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.
That's a right low blow.